Welcome to Geek Slut Film Reviews with me, Matt and Nikki. We're now going to talk about a movie we both saw at the London Film Festival that's going to be on general release, I think, towards the end of the year, called Room, which premiered at the Toronto Film Festival to rave reviews. It stars Brie Larson, who people might remember from Short Term 12, and also she played Amy Schumer's sister in Trainwreck. This story is based on the novel by Emma Donoghue. It's completely fictional, but it's about a young woman who's kidnapped in her late teens and kept captive in a shed, essentially, in this man's back garden. He sexually assaults her. She ends up having a baby, and then the film starts with you seeing her and the young boy in the room together and how she's created this world to keep him safe. As the film progresses, it's about them eventually it's not to spoil it because you'll have seen it in the trailer, but they escape, and it's about how they deal with the aftermath of that. This film is pretty extraordinary. It whacks a punch cinematically that I wasn't expecting. It's directed by an Irish filmmaker called Lenny Abrahamson, who directed Frank with Michael Fassbender. I found this film to be powerful, moving, brilliantly performed, and really, really works because of the chemistry between an extraordinary Brie Larson and this young actor who plays her son called Jacob Tremblay, who is so amazing. It's crazy to think when we look back on films like The Sixth Sense and you see Haley Joel Osment, you think, wow, that was a brilliant performance. This will blow your mind.
And what I really liked about it, actually, because it starts off in Room, as he calls it, and it's just looking at something through the childish innocence of the fact that he has absolutely no knowledge of anything outside this room, and you get his voiceover, which is so innocent and so sweet, and I really liked the way he looked at the world and the way he views it. There's a bit, I think, when he's out of the room and he's like, people do this and this is what happens, and it's really sweet, and it's very poignant to kind of see something from a child's perspective like that, and the fact that she's kind of built this around him in order to protect him, like you said, and then she's got to kind of explain to him why this isn't actually what he should want anymore, and he loves being in Room and he misses it even when they go, which is interesting.
Well, because it's all he knows.
Yeah, exactly. And like you said, the performances are great, and what I loved about the way the camera worked was when they're in Room, it's very claustrophobic, it's very close up, there's a lot of close-up shots of their faces, it's all very in the frame, it feels really tight, and then obviously it almost feels like they're stuck
in a loft. To start off with, you actually, as a viewer, quite disorientated because you're not sure where they are or what's happening and what this premise is. And you're right. I think his kind of it's interesting that they chose him as the narrator rather than her.
Something from the book. The book is completely from his perspective all the way through.
So there's like a childlike innocence to it.
So that's where it came from, and then obviously things start to broaden out a little bit more, and other characters come in. But Brie Larson, I think, is a standout for me, and I loved her in Short Term 12. That's an absolutely fantastic film, and I thought this was equally as brilliant, and I think she's getting some Oscar nods.
She's getting a lot of Oscar buzz, and I think she's got a very strong chance because it takes such skill to pull off this kind of performance, because not only do you have to have the chemistry with the young actor, which I think is quite difficult anyway, which she does brilliantly, but she actually has to be selfless. Because it's, even though she's dealing with the aftermath of what's happened to her, the character, she also has to be protective of the son, and there are times where that becomes too much for her. And also then when they're eventually released, Joan Allen, who is a phenomenal actress, who people might remember from Nixon and The Crucible and The Contender, she plays a mother, and she is brilliant in it, and there's a real chemistry between those two. And William H. Macy pops up as her dad. That was my only quibble with Room, actually, is that kind of subplot gets abandoned pretty quickly. But there are some tremendous moments in it, particularly when the young boy escapes. I mean, Nikki and I have a bit of a disagreement with this, but with the soundtrack, normally when it's overpowering, I find it a little bit jarring. But this, it had my heart literally pumping out of my chest.
Yeah, this is where we disagree, because my one quibble with it is I think sometimes the soundtrack is a little bit too obvious and a bit too trying to play on your emotions, like cry now, please, keep along. And that was my only criticism of it, really, this sometimes the soundtrack. And I also think I would have liked to see more in the room. There was a point where I was a bit like, where is this going? I'm not really sure if they knew. There was a bit in the middle where I thought it kind of sagged a little bit, and I was kind of thinking, where is this going? Where is this going to go?
I see what you mean. I didn't feel like that, but because I had no expectations, I don't think, going in, but it completely engrossed me. For me, I think it's one of the strongest films I've seen this year. I think Brie Larson, as I said, is extraordinary, and also the young actor Jacob. I think he does I'd be very surprised if both aren't recognised at Oscar time. So it's a 4 stars from me.
I'm going to go 3.5.
Okie dokies, that's Room.